Never trust a lib or any politician for that matter, but never trust them when they tell you that whatever they're doing it for the children. Right? This is what we'll always hear. Oh, I'm doing it for the children. Really? Where's the best example of that you can see in our society, in our political debates? Where is it always about the kids, but it's actually not about the kids at all? Some of you are probably already thinking what the answer is, and you're getting it right. Teachers' unions. Ah, yes, public sector unions that are the beating heart of the donations and political mobilization and machinery of the Democrat Party. Teachers' unions, which are all about very low show jobs for adults and not about making things better for kids. Why am I bringing this up? Well, here is a social worker talking about how in Hillsborough County, they're missing, in that school district, 7,000, this is in Florida, in a large school district, they're missing 7,000 students unaccounted for. Play clip 2.
What do you hear from teachers? Are they saying to you, we're missing kids, he should have been in my class, where is he, he's not showing up? Do you hear that?
Well, here in Hillsborough County, we're missing 7,000 students.
7,000 kids didn't come back.
7,000.
How does that 7,000 number compare to previous years?
We've never had that happen.
To have that many kids with a question mark next to their name, where do you begin?
Well, every student attended some school last year, all 7,000 of them. So we start there. What about their emergency contacts? Maybe grandma or grandpa is on the emergency card and grandma and grandpa can tell you where they are. We find kids because another one went to a birthday party and they saw them. And so, yeah, they're still in Tampa. Okay, we're energized to keep looking for that student.
This is disastrous for kids. These school lockdowns or school shutdowns and this remote learning thing it doesn't work. It does not work. And especially for low-income kids who need additional assistance, need more personal attention from teachers. This is pushing them so far behind at critical stages in their development. And we've already seen there is no argument here. There's no debate over whether kids are safe from COVID in schools. The answer is yes. Anyone who tells you otherwise is lying or an idiot. They're at no risk. And so, I say that, and yes, you're not at risk really of being struck by lightning when you walk out your house, but technically you are. It's like that for kids. If you're under 19, COVID is like lightning strike risk, okay? You're never going to leave your house? Now, why are these school districts all shut down? Why is it that I can walk to a grocery store and see the same clerks, the same employees that I've seen for the entire outbreak here in New York, the entire pandemic here in New York, but teachers can't show up to school? Too dangerous. All right, so many other people. I'm going into an office to do a TV show every day. People are showing up to offices, being around other people. It's happening, but teachers can't do it? Why? Oh, because the teachers' unions. Because the teachers' unions want to flex their muscle here. They want to make sure that their employees have the option to sit at home and basically play, YouTube videos for the kids, not really do anything. It's a great deal. Get to stay at home. You sit there in front of a screen for a little bit and then you don't have to do anything. I think it's fantastic for them. It's not about the kids, though. It's not about them. And I think you are seeing a surge of a bipartisan recognition here that kids suffer because of these teachers' unions, that children suffer because of what's going on here. And that's at least a recognition that should have been that's a recognition that's a long time in coming. And I wish everybody would really understand that this is just horrific what's going on here. It's wrong. It's selfish. And it's a lesson in why public sector unions are a terrible thing. They should not exist. In fact, at the origins of the union movements in this country, even I think it was FDR himself said that public sector unions, that's a terrible idea. Now you're going to have people that are supposed to be serving the public who are also forming unions to make sure that they can get paid more and do less at the public's expense all the time. And all you need is one political party, in this case, the Democrats, to feed at that trough, and it never goes away. It never goes away. So the teachers' unions are shameful. That's not new. And also our political class is utterly shameful. Back to Pelosi. Remember, she's been holding out here. She's been holding out for now going on months. Will not pass a COVID relief bill. Will not get people additional funds. Will not get people the help that they need, because she has in her head that there are demands that need to be met for other things, and the GOP won't do it. So she's just holding the American people hostage, and then she turns around when she's not diving into her $25,000 refrigerator to eat some $12 a pint ice cream that's delivered to her house by workers who are, of course, at risk for COVID. I mean, she's not. She gets to just, Queen Nancy gets to sit there and have everything brought to her. But here she is telling you that the GOP is the reason people are suffering. Play 17.
Sadly, our traditional, some of the things that we do regularly, but especially at Thanksgiving, to minister to those who are food insecure and the rest, will not actually be possible. But nonetheless, we must try. We are in a full-blown economic and health catastrophe, and it's amazing to see the patience the GOP has for other people's suffering.
She's the one with the patience for suffering. She's the cause of additional suffering now because she's not getting what she wants. There was a 12-mile-long food line in Atlanta. Tyler Perry gave out 5,000 meals. There was a 12-mile long of cars, people waiting, and it ran out in 2 hours. That's what's happening in the country. While Democrats are out there lecturing people about how they're not wearing masks, people can't put food on the table. They have no money. And the response we get is somehow this is all Trump's fault, right? That's the easiest thing for them to switch to, which is what they do. And they'll just continue on with this. They'll continue on. Queen Pelosi doesn't care about the suffering. She's a Chardonnay socialist. It's all going to be fine for her either way. Do you think she looks worried? She's almost 80 years old. Do you think she's worried at all about COVID? Nah, she'll be all right. Trump had it better in 3 days. He's 73. What are we really waiting for here? What are we doing as a society? Well, some people view this crisis, as she rightly points out, it is a crisis. It's partially a health crisis. It's partially a government crisis because of what they're doing. But they view it all as an opportunity, and they're trying to leverage it and use it to those ends and for those purposes. And we've let them get away with it far too much already. I recently got a crash course in home title theft, and you better pray this crime never happens to you because it goes after your most valuable asset, your home. Here's how it works. The bad guys, cyber thieves, they find your home's title online. They find your information. Then they use a quitclaim deed to kick you off, put themselves on, and take out loans against your home's equity. You often won't find out about this until you receive payment demands in the mail, perhaps even a foreclosure notice. The usual identity theft services do not protect you. You have to go with the experts I trust at Home Title Lock. Home Title Lock will create a virtual barrier around your home's title. All you have to do is go to HomeTitleLock.com, use the promo code RADIO to get 30 free days of protection. You can also check online to see if you're a victim of this crime and don't even know it. That's HomeTitleLock.com, promo code RADIO for 30 free days of protection, and to check to see if your home has already been breached by these cyber thieves. Check it out today, HomeTitleLock.com.
Oh, absolutely. And it's been organized and conducted with the help of Silicon Valley people, the big tech companies, the social media companies, and even the media companies. And I'm going to release the Kraken.
That's Sidney Powell saying she's going to do it. She's going to do it. For those that don't catch the movie reference, play it, Producer Mark.
Release the Kraken.
Kraken was a giant sea monster. If you ever saw the movie, what's it called again? About gods and something or other. It's a Greek god movie. I forget what it's called, but that was the Liam Neeson. That was the more recent remake of it. There's a 1981 version of it too. But release the Kraken, and this was trending on social media for a while because it's a phrase that's kind of fun. First of all, it's fun to say. And second of all, it is. Well, what is the name of the movie, Producer Mark? Do we know? I got to know this. It's from
looking at it. Hold on.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's what's in Clash of the Titans. There we go. Clash of the Titans. So Sidney Powell is basically saying that she's gonna be dropping bombs here. That would be, it would be truly earth shattering. I mean, if what she says here is true, then we need to get ready for. And I'm actually going to tell you this. We need to know it if it's true. The American people have a right to know, and there's an obligation for us to know this truth. I'm just going to say this. And I'm not even trying to give you the odds here of whether I think, but if this were to happen and Sidney Powell did release the Kraken, this country would get very tense. You think the Democrats are annoying and totalitarian now. What do you think their response would be if and when we get to the point where they're told, we can prove? It's one thing to think or to know in your heart that they cheated in the election. It's another thing if you have proof that a judge will not be able to ignore with the voting machines. Friends, this would be the biggest story. I mean, unless you had aliens landing or something and we discovered life from other planets. I mean, this would be the biggest story you could have right now. I don't know. This would be crazy. And Sidney Powell, a lot of people really respect her. And I think she loves the country. And I think she's fighting for us, and she's doing what she thinks is best here. So I want to see this play out. I don't see any reason to short circuit it. I don't see any reason to smear her. Why are people jumping to that right away? That doesn't seem. It doesn't seem like that's a fair approach. Now, the Trump campaign put out a statement, and this is what's gotten a lot of people very, well, let's just say they're very quick to say that Sidney Powell is way off base here. But they put out a statement that says that Sidney Powell is operating as a lawyer in her own capacity and is not a part of the Trump campaign legal team. Sidney Powell is practicing law on her own. She's not a member of the Trump legal team. She is also not a lawyer for the president in her personal capacity. That's what the statement says. Okay. Now, it's fair to say what the heck is going on here. That seems a little bit strange considering that she was a part of that Trump press conference last week, which I watched and then also went back and read through the transcript a couple of times. And they clearly are separating this out so that there's going to be the Sidney Powell look in this investigation, and then there's going to be the Trump legal team specifically. Now, let's all remember that the Russia collusion hoax also involved multiple angles, and they never had any evidence of anything. But they were coming at Russia collusion from the possibility of, WikiLeaks hacking, and the Kremlin working through Papadopoulos and Carter Page, and they had the FBI looking into this, and they had media outlets that were pushing the narrative. The CIA director was involved. So they were coming at that from all these different angles. I don't see why we can't have a multi-pronged investigation of voter fraud. What's the issue? What's the problem? There isn't one. Here's Jenna Ellis of the Trump campaign. Play clip 9.
And the common question that I've gotten since the press conference is, why haven't you brought forth evidence? We have, and we will in court. We have not yet had what the legal process calls an evidentiary hearing. That's where you go into court and you say, I have all of this evidence, Judge. Now let me bring forward the witnesses, the direct testimony of people who saw the events. They heard from election officials who told voters who to vote for or who told them to manipulate ballots, all of those things. And also the circumstantial evidence, which is all of these ballots being delivered late at night.
Now, there was a decision from the Third U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals over the weekend on Sunday And the judge, Matthew Brans, wrote that they were asking for far too much and that the remedy effectively is far beyond what they can prove. This has been my concern all along. I've been saying this to you. It's not just about what you can prove. It's about what a judge will be willing to do. And so here's the situation you have in Philadelphia. Even if you can prove from eyewitness affidavits, let's say, and you're going to need more than eyewitnesses. That's the reality here. A judge it doesn't matter how many eyewitnesses say they saw something, they're going to need to prove it. And the Democrats set this up. I'm just telling you the truth. The Democrats set this up so that it's very hard to prove the fraud after it has occurred. That's why they wanted the mail-in ballots this way. That's why they wanted it to be so wide open without the kinds of protections that you would need to ensure voter integrity. But even if you could prove that there were a few hundred or even a few thousand votes that were illegally counted as part of an illicit process in the state of Pennsylvania, which is where we are in all this now, a judge is not going to say, well, then every vote that may have been counted using that process is going to get tossed out. And that's what, they're asking for a huge number of ballots where they didn't either sequester them or where the postmarks, I forget what the specific flaw is, but they're asking for a huge number of ballots to get thrown out, and it's just not going to happen. The judge is not going to do it. Now, you could say the Supreme Court, and I know a lot of people have been saying, oh, well, now because this got looked at quickly, the Supreme Court will take this up. Really? You think Kavanaugh and John Roberts are going to have the backbone to do this where other federal judges have not? Again, I'm just telling you what I think. I could be wrong. I think that I was very confident that Donald Trump was going to win the election. I was closer in the reality than pretty much all the pollsters were with my assessments and my analysis of it. But I didn't know that the Democrats' mail-in fraud thing would work so well, or mail-in, scheme, we could say, would work so well. So I couldn't account for that. That's just my way of saying I could be wrong here. It is possible that I could be getting this one wrong. But here's what I see right now. Even with the presentation of evidence, judges will always say, better to have more votes counted than fewer. And so that means that the remedy that the Trump campaign is seeking here of, we got to throw out, 300,000 ballots here or 1 million ballots there or whatever it may be, depends on the state. Judges are going to say, no, you have a guy that says he saw boxes, but only 10 ballots that he actually saw change, but he had boxes and boxes coming out of a truck. I'm not going to throw out all the ballots out of the truck. You don't know. You don't know if those are valid or not, right? That's going to be the excuse. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. I'm not telling. I think I think it's wrong. I think it's sad what's happening here. It bothers me. But I always feel an obligation to tell you, this audience that is so humbling and kind as to give me their time, I'll always tell you what I really think is happening. So I think you deserve that because I have respect for you. I have respect for the people who listen to this show. So that's what I see going on here. And I think that's going to be a very challenging to get around. I think that's going to be a big issue. Whether Sidney Powell ends up with nothing, I don't know. I just don't know. How could I know at this point? She hasn't shown us the goods, but she says she's got them. We'll see. And I'm not judging her one way or the other until we see what she's got. As for the rest of the Trump legal team, I want them to turn over every rock. I want them to look in every crevice here. I want them to do everything they can because really, in a sense, this is like a juice cleanse for our democracy here. Let's allow the cleansing process of the courts to play out. That's what I want to see happening, and I think that we're going through that now.
Facts do not care about your feelings. That's what conservative commentator Ben Shapiro famously said several years ago, and it's still true today. The facts are the facts. Biden's win is being certified. And there Trump is wrong, by the way, to say that every Trump voter feels that this thing was rigged. Not every Trump voter does. But 77% of Americans who backed Trump did tell pollsters from Monmouth that they believe voter fraud tipped the scales for Biden. This conspiracy crap is just like Trump's anti-media enemy of the people smear. It's a slow-acting poison that is crippling the American body politic. Election denialism is like a middle finger to democracy, in the same way that Rich Lowry said that a vote for Trump was like a middle finger, a rude gesture to the left.
Well, now I'm getting excited about it. I mean, if it means that I could give a middle finger to folks like Stelter, sign me up. But let's hear from my friend Harlan Hill. He's a GOP political consultant. He also is on the Trump campaign advisory board about what he thinks is going on here. Harlan, always good to have you.
Well, it's great to be with you. Is there anybody more sanctimonious and insufferable as Brian Stelter at CNN? I mean, he keeps raising the bar for how obnoxious somebody in the mainstream media can be.
I think it's fantastic that we have the Brian Stelters of the world out there lecturing us on journalism and credibility and speaking truth to power. It's pretty hilarious. So I'm glad that CNN keeps him there. Although if Zucker goes, I believe that Stelter has his show because he kind of looks like Zucker. And so Jeff sees in a little Stelter so there's a little bit of that going on. But I think he may be gone. But let's get into the serious stuff here for a second about these legal challenges. And what are you hearing from the campaign? How are we doing with all this right now? There was a not a very good court decision for the campaign on the Third Circuit in Pennsylvania over the weekend. What do you see happening here?
Well, I would say it's not a good decision, but at least it happened on an expedited schedule. I think that this was the anticipated outcome based on everything that I'm hearing out of the campaign. They knew that this would go this way. Listen, the president's not giving up. The votes have not been certified in all of the key states. There are going to be a series of legal challenges, and I think the plan is to take this all the way to the Supreme Court. I think that what the American people are rightfully starting to demand, though, is that the Trump campaign start to present all of these legal challenges, not in a press conference, but actually through legal proceedings. Like let's see some legal work actually start to come to fruition here.
What do you make of the statement from the campaign about Sidney Powell, that she's a private lawyer and not a part of the campaign? And then Powell's own response that she put out that she's just trying to get to the bottom of this for democracy and to save America. What's going on here?
I actually think it's okay. I mean, I think it's a little overplayed. I mean, there are obviously some tensions there, and because just 2 days prior, she was on stage with Jenna Ellis and Rudy Giuliani, seemingly as part of the team. But I think officially she really wasn't integrated into the team, but that they were collaborating for the last 2 weeks. And I anticipate that is not going to change, really. I think there still probably will be some collaboration. Sidney Powell is moving more along a criminal path, and the campaign is following a constitutional path. These things do not conflict, and I think that they can move forward in tandem. And her case could go well beyond even the outcome of this election if it doesn't work in our favor. And I think that's a good role. I think it's a good place for Sidney Powell to be in, is to try to hold some people criminally accountable for any crimes that may have been committed across the country.
So can you delve into this a little bit more? This is an interesting separation that you're describing here between the constitutional challenges. So that seems like it's more what the Trump legal team right now is focused on, effectively to say there's an equal protection violation when you have some counties in a state, for example, allowing the curing of ballots, allowing different processes that are going to include more votes in Democrat-leaning precincts. Right. So there are those constitutional arguments. And what Sidney Powell is talking about is, I mean, that's just straight up voter fraud where people are getting paid money and changing votes, right? That's what you mean by this difference?
Yeah, exactly. So actually, investigating the relationships between elected officials and the election technology vendors. I'm talking about the voting machine vendors. Also, I think that she's going to start to lay out this case based on what I've had. I had a conversation with somebody that works with her just late last night on this. I don't think Sidney Powell is going to fall into the shadows here. I think she's just doubling down. And in many ways, I think it benefits the Trump campaign to follow this dual road strategy so that she can act more unilaterally and not encumbered by the campaign hierarchy that needs to be a little more conservative in its messaging as it's representing the president personally. So I actually think this is a good thing for us. Honestly, I mean, that's not a talking point. I think it's actually good that Sidney is off the tether and can do what she thinks best advantages the president in American democracy.
We're speaking to Harlan Hill. He's a political strategist, consultant, and also an advisor or on the advisory board of the Trump campaign. So, Harlan, how do you see this now playing out? I mean, we've got this Pennsylvania certification. We've got deadlines. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, we got to be honest. I mean, our chances of winning here are in the single digits. I mean, I believe wholeheartedly that there was material industrial scale manipulation of the outcome of this election through a variety of means. But that is a very difficult case to prove out in the short period of time that we have. And the problem is the way that this fraud was perpetuated, for instance, by taking ballots that shouldn't have been out of their secrecy envelope before against court orders. That's something that you can't undo. Once bad ballots have been commingled with good ballots, there's no way of backing out what the results would have been. So the Democrats did do an extremely effective job at rushing through the vote tally, even though they knew that some of the ballots that they were counting were not eligible. But we have to be honest about what our prospects are here. It's slim. But what that means is that going forward in subsequent elections, there needs to be a wholesale overhaul, not from the federal level down, because I don't think that that's going to fix anything, having Washington dictate how we cast votes. I mean, it'll just be a mangled mess that advantages the companies with the biggest lobbyists. But there need to be conversations in each of these states about how we rectify this, because if we lose faith in our democracies, especially now when we've lost faith in so many other institutions, that does not spell well for the law and order on our streets.
How are we looking in Georgia? I'm seeing some troubling news stories about the amount of effort that Democrats are putting into trying to turn those two seats blue, those two Senate seats. And I do have a concern here that Republicans are so fixed on the election outcome, which is obviously very important, the presidential election outcome, that maybe there's not necessarily the focus there needs to be on making sure that those two Georgia Senate seats go red. Because, if you do have a Biden administration, but you have a Republican Senate majority, we can weather that storm for 2 years pretty well. It's not going to be pleasant, but it's not. If they take control of the Senate, I think, Harlan, you and I would have to agree it's bad news. We got big problems.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a repeat of the first 2 years of the Obama administration, where we got Obamacare and a whole lot of excess government spending and an unchecked executive. So I mean that's what we're likely to get, I think. I mean, I'm not encouraged at all by the numbers that I'm seeing out of Georgia. And right now I'm talking about fundraising numbers. I mean, I talked to a lot of people that expected that there would be a lot more money flowing in, and there is a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, there is a lot of money. But they thought there'd be more coming in to register voters, to run ads on television, run direct mail, that sort of thing. And there are big numbers, but not as much as I think was anticipated. But listen, it's still early days. I mean, they don't cast the final ballot until January 5th. So I think a lot of people, at least in our world, in big donors, they've been tapped. They've been dry. They've been drained dry over the last 4 years by the re-election effort, and they're probably feeling a little bit of shock because the election hasn't turned out to as positively as we expected. And so, but Buck, I'll say this:
do you know the Georgia teams, Harlan? I mean, I know you know this world.
I do. Yeah, and actually,
do you know the Georgia team? Are they pretty good? The GOP side?
Yeah, no, they're all very competent. I mean, the campaigns are very good, and there are a lot of outside PACs that are playing down there that are going to. That are doing really good work. Actually, we did a PAC down there to help Loeffler at least get to this runoff. But I'll say this: even if we do lose the Senate, in some ways, as we're looking to reignite the fire within the conservative movement here, to define what the future of the Republican Party is, letting Democrats run hog wild for 2 years it will be a repeat of the Tea Party in 2010. But unlike then, we do still have a leader at large, and that will be President Trump. And I think that he will be extraordinarily effective at defining what the future of the party is and who the future leaders are. So I don't think all hope is lost, even if this doesn't work out. But I mean, every Republican that's living in adjoining states should be flooding Georgia on the weekends to go knock doors and make phone calls because it's critical. But even if it doesn't work out, I think Democrats have always been remarkably effective at wasting a really good opportunity. There's going to be so much infighting within the party. You have people like AOC saying, "Look, we have full control of the House, the Senate, and the White House. Green New Deal," and all this just wild and crazy stuff that American voters did not. They're going to reject wholesale. So we'll make the best of the situation either way.
All right, Harlan Hill, everybody, political consultant and advisor to the Trump campaign. Good to talk to you, my friend.
Thank you.
How do we do everything possible to make sure that we become a vibrant democracy, that we do exactly the opposite of what Trump and his authoritarian friends want to do? And clearly, some of the answers are that we have got to eliminate and end the Electoral College. Turns out that Joe Biden will end up receiving some 6 million more votes than Donald Trump. That's a lot of votes. And yet, if it weren't for a couple of 100,000 voters in Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin, in Michigan, in Nevada, in Arizona, Trump would have won the presidency. That does not make any sense. If we believe in one person, one vote, we cannot continue a situation where a few 100,000 votes in 5 or 6 states can determine who the next president is.
The good thing Bernie Sanders is not teaching a class on constitutional law. Doesn't seem to understand the system of government that we have. And here he is talking about protecting our sacred democracy by dramatically altering the system that we have for the perpetuation of that democracy. And I know we're in a republic, not a democracy, but we have democratic processes. So that's what we're always talking about here. Get ready for it. This will be the path forward. This will be the decision that they make if they get the opportunity. I was just speaking to Harlan Hill about what happens if in Georgia we lose those 2 Senate seats. They will make these transformative decisions. They will go forward with the elimination of the filibuster. They will go after the Electoral College. They will add D.C. and Puerto Rico for statehood, which means you've got 4 more U.S. senators that would be in the mix. That would be from total Democrat strongholds. Now, I think there's a clear constitutional argument against D.C. becoming a state, even if they tried to make it a state. But Puerto Rico, it could happen. And this is the plan. This is what they're trying to do so that this election, and this is a little bit scary to think about or a little sad to think about, but the way that they change the rules in this election may allow them to change the rules in every election going forward. That's something we need to be aware of, that is a realistic possibility, trying to address everything that's going on here right now. So I am concerned about where we go, especially if the Democrats manage to take control here. And I'm also concerned because you can see that there are Republicans who are already angling to be the leaders of a new post-Trump Republican Party. It's already happening. Yeah, that's going on. Like you've got Chris Christie out there. Why does he think this is helpful? Play clip 10.
The president has had an opportunity to access the courts. And I said to you, George, starting at 2:30 a.m. on Wednesday morning, if you've got the evidence of fraud, present it. And what's happened here is, quite frankly, the conduct of the president's legal team has been a national embarrassment. Sidney Powell accusing Governor Brian Kemp of a crime
on television, yet being unwilling to go on TV and defend and lay out the evidence that she supposedly has. This is outrageous conduct by any lawyer. And notice, George, they won't do it inside the courtroom. They allege fraud outside the courtroom, but when they go inside the courtroom, they don't plead fraud and they don't argue fraud. This is what I was concerned about at 2:30 in the morning on Wednesday night. Listen, I've been a supporter of the president's. I voted for him twice, but elections have consequences, and we cannot continue to act as if something happened here that didn't happen. You have an obligation to present the evidence. The evidence has not been presented.
The evidence, no one says it has been presented yet. This is where I get very short-tempered with the likes of Chris Christie and others. They're either going to have this evidence to present or not. Why are they saying it's a national embarrassment before Sidney Powell has done this in court? She's pursuing different pathways. We've already talked about this, pursuing different pathways than some of the Trump legal team, the official legal team of the campaign, that are looking at the constitutional challenges to what happened in this election. That effectively the Democrats changed the rules so much that they knew there'd be rampant fraud and it would be very hard to prove. Well, Sidney Powell's going after this. She's the only one who's been talking about Dominion voting machines and also Smartmatic software, and she's either going to have the proof or not. So why get ahead of it? Why defame her? She also said that General Flynn was railroaded, and people made fun of her for that and said she had no proof, and she was 100% correct on that. So I think she deserves the deference here to see. Let's see what she's got. Let's see what she has.